How's it going? Bit of a different video today, as you can see. I'm recording on my phone in a vertical situation, which is not usual for me. I haven't posted in a while. I went on a trip. I was gonna make a video about resorts, all-inclusive resorts. And I wasn't kind of in the mood, And I had been struggling to find a game that I could play and talk at the same time. So yeah, I put that on the back burner a little bit. But who knows? I've been thinking about maybe coming back to War Thunder. It's a very good game for playing and talking at the same time. So maybe we'll see in the coming weeks. I may be asking, hey, why are you recording this? Why are you outside? But a pretty beautiful place here, as you can see. So let me show you around. So there's this lake behind me. There are those silos way back there, here, as you can see. And perhaps you can see there's this construction going on here, making something for cattle. I believe this is from my father-in-law. It's a farm. It's a big farm. 6-10 kilometers away from town. I like this lake a lot. Like sometimes I like to come in here and just sit down. It's almost midday here. Let me see. It's 10:30 a.m. Yeah, it's 10:30 a.m. So it's getting hotter by the minute, but there's some shade here on the street. There was a bird I was trying to record earlier, but it flew away, so I unfortunately can't show you on video. Perhaps if some other birds show up, maybe I'll be able to show you. So what's the theme of the video? I've been watching some miscellaneous things on YouTube lately, and I've seen lots of Gen Z videos of people complaining, and really it's not even complaining, just like saying how hard their life is and that they're trying to find a job and it's hard to find a job, and even if they find a job, then it's hard to afford day-to-day life. Like paying rent is expensive, food is expensive, transportation is expensive, and so I'll try and put it on the description. No promises on that, but I'll try and find it. It's been like a couple weeks. It's lost in my history. But there was a video, but there are several, right? But there was one specifically of this guy that was explaining why Gen Z in general. I suppose this is more specific to the US, but, well, the guy's American, right? But maybe it's more widespread in that people are kind of giving up on the whole corporate ladder and getting a job thing. And he was explaining that, like, he was doing some math, which was sound math. I mean, I didn't check the calculations, but it seemed alright by my evaluations. That he was like saying, well, let's say you get a job right now, and then you make, I don't know, $100,000 a year, and then you spend that and you save some, and then the expectation is that you're gonna work your whole life and then work a 9 to 5, right? Maybe more, who knows? And then you're gonna have saved up all that money by the end of your life when you're 60, 65, and then you're gonna be able to enjoy, quote unquote, that money for 5-10 years, give or take, and then you'll be gone. And it doesn't make much sense in his estimation. And I kind of agree. I'm a bit older, right? I'm 36, so I'm not Gen Z, I'm a millennial. But the general sentiment that he has, like, why even bother, right? Why even try? If... Hang on. There's a bird. Oh, I see it. Maybe you guys can see it too. Let me try. See, it's right on the tree over there. Maybe I need to zoom in. I don't know how to. Maybe I'm not very adept. I think this is my first video I've ever recorded on a long form video, right? That I've ever recorded on a phone. So I don't know how to switch the camera. I don't know if that will interrupt the video. I think it will. I don't see any options here. My phone is not very good, so there's that. But yeah, the bird is just over there. Let's leave it be. Okay, yeah, so the guy was mentioning that, like, why even bother, right? Why even start working and spend all those years slaving away for someone else? and then in the end you won't even be able to enjoy the thing that you've constructed. And I finished watching the video, I turned it off, and I was like thinking about what he said, right? And I think I have two arguments on that regard. The first one is that there is no alternative, right? Like I can empathize with the fact that, yeah, it's hard. You're gonna find a job that doesn't pay that much, and then you're probably gonna have to rent a house. It's gonna be very hard for you to afford to buy your own house unless you work some crazy hours, or you and your wife, if you eventually get married, maybe skip on having kids and try and accumulate an amount of money that you will be able to afford a home. That's true. But at the same time, what alternative do you have, right? Like, what else can you do? Like, are you gonna borrow money from the bank? Just do a couple trips abroad, perhaps, or buy some things? And then what? You're not gonna pay the debt? You're not gonna work? You're gonna, quote unquote, enjoy life for 5-10 years? And then you're gonna be homeless? Like, what? I don't get the alternative. Like, I understand the sentiment and the revolt. There's a fly here. It's gonna sting me. It's more like a wasp, actually. It just went away. But yeah, what's the alternative? You're gonna not work, right? And then what? What I'm saying here is that I understand the revolt. Like, I can't see why it is, or it can't seem such an unfair predicament. But at the same time, it's a hard life, man. You can only control what you can control in your life, right? And I see lots of videos complaining, oh, it's capitalism, oh, it's Western society, yeah, the society isn't fair, and politicians, they ruined everything. And you may very well be right there. I won't disagree with you. There's lots of things that are wrong in the world that could be better. And like the economic system, you being against capitalism, I mean, that's fair. I can see your point. But at the same time, like, what can you do individually, Like, are you gonna find 1,000, 10,000 other people and get to the streets and make a protest and change the system? I mean, you could, but let's be real here, that's not gonna happen, right? You're probably gonna get arrested. So that's probably what's gonna happen. So it seems to me like complaining about the situation is understandable, but it's not productive. It doesn't seem like it's gonna do anything to change your reality. You're just not gonna move forward, That's it, basically. And the people that accept the situation, however bad it may be, and then try and make it a little bit better every day, I mean, those are the people that are gonna eventually get something, Like they're gonna make something of themselves. Like, see, my father-in-law here, he's probably working in there. He's almost 60. And he wasn't a rich guy. Was decently poor, as I understand. But then he went ahead, worked for other people, saved up, bought his truck, started hauling goods around, saved some money up from that, hired other people, and you see, nowadays has this farm. Like, is it a giant farm? Not really. Like, it's from where I'm at right now to that silo over there. So it's, what, a kilometer maybe? About that, right? And there's another down there, but I mean, it's a very remote part here in Brazil, so it's not exactly like a lavish lifestyle. Far from it. It's not poor either. I won't say it is, because that would be a lie. But it's different times as well. I can definitely see that. Oh, if I went and bought a truck today and just hauling goods, would I be able to buy my own farm in 20 years' time? I don't know. Maybe not, right? But at the same time, what can you do, right? Will sitting around improve your situation? I don't see how it will. Now, that is one thing that I got from that video. And the other thing was the materialism, which was like this guy on this particular video, but I've seen that sentiment in other videos as well. It was like, well, it's really unfair because I'm gonna have to work for however many years and I won't be able to enjoy life. And so after that, the guy was describing what enjoying life was in his point of view. It was like, well, if I could, I'd like to just have a nice house, fair enough. I'd like to have 1 or 2 nice cars to drive around. I like to take some trips to, to a place that I want, twice a year or something like that, and eat what I want. And I'm hearing that, and I feel you, man. I'd like to live in a nice place as well. I'm not into the whole car thing. I mean, it's nice to have a car, right? But it doesn't matter if the car is comfortable. I mean, I see cars more as a drive you from point A to B, which is actually ironic seeing as how much into sim racing I am. But I guess the sim racing really quenches my thirst for having an actual good car in real life. Like I have a Toyota Etios, which is basically a Brazilian version of the Yaris, but stripped down even further, if you can believe it. But it's a good car, man. It's a Toyota, never breaks down. And, that's fine. Is the car fast? No. Is the car comfortable? Well, it's okay. But it's fine. Like, we can move around. That's enough. And there's also the trips that he mentioned. And obviously I'm very biased because I have kids, right? So it seems like the people that are married are always defending marriage, and the people that have kids are defending having kids. I guess it's like a cold swimming pool, There's a saying here in Brazil. I guess it's probably more places as well, whereby you when you dive in a cold swimming pool or river, you just tell everyone else that's outside, oh no, the water is just fine. You can come as well. And then when people dive in, obviously, are freezing cold, you're like, well, at least there's more people in here with me, I suppose. But in any case, like if you ask me what a good life is 10 years ago, I'd have a very different answer than what I have today, man. Like 10 years ago, I'd probably be on the same page as like, oh, I want an apartment, a high rise, have a nice view, and if possible, be able to go out almost every day to eat someplace nice. Have my toys, my gadgets, like have my video games and my fancy PC and whatnot. And the cars as well. Like there was one time in my life that I was really into, I never managed to buy a sports car because obviously I didn't have the money, but like I wanted a Golf GTI. I wanted a Subaru WRX, right? That was my favorite car back then. But nowadays I know that insurance exists, so I'm never buying that car because let's be honest, it's a lot of money. And I have changed a lot in these 10 years, and it would be very naive of me to say, oh, no, I know everything I have to know today. So I'm a finished product, and in 10 years from now, I'll have the same opinion I have today. That's absolutely not the case. Like we change a lot in 5-10 years time. If you think about how you were 10 years ago, you see that to be true. Like when you were 16, and then when you were 25, 26, and then when you're 36, where it's where I'm at right now, and when I'm 46, I'll probably be very different. And when I watched that video and the guy was saying what a good life, a comfortable life would be in his estimation, I think he has his priorities a bit mixed up, And hopefully, I would think, at least if and when he manages to find a person in his life, a girlfriend, which eventually becomes a wife, and then he has kids, the priorities change completely, Like, nowadays, I don't really care much what I get for myself. Like, if I'm driving no beater, that's fine. If I can't go out at all, that's fine. We just went, the video I was going to make about the resort was because we went on a vacation, right? I'm not going to talk too long about that. But we went on a vacation to an all-inclusive resort. It was okay, but I'm not a big fan of resorts, but that's a video for another time. But it had been the first trip I took in 5 years which, well, woe is me. Well, my life is so hard. I mean, come on. It's a pretty good life. I actually managed to take a vacation and to a resort, to a beach of all places. I'm very fortunate, and I know that to be true. However, at the same time, there's people that are more fortunate than me, and that's fine. But, so yeah, that was the first vacation I took in 5 years. And I was just grateful that my kids could see everything, you know. Like when my kids saw the beach, they were super happy and just ran to the water. Immediately got trashed by the waves. It was pretty funny actually. And then they're just there building sand castles and everything. And after you become a parent, you really learn after a while. It's not immediate, right? It is actually, I would say, pretty common that as your kid gets born, you have a lot of resistance to change the life as you had before, to the way that you have to become after the fact. Like you have to wake up in the middle of the night, you know, all that kind of stuff about kids, that you know how it goes. And you learn to become happy through your kids. You know, giving a gift nowadays is way better for me. Like, I feel much better than when I receive a gift myself, you know? So going back to the topic, when I saw the video and the guy was describing his ideal life, or his comfortable life as it were, I was just thinking, you know, he's not mentioning like having kids at all in his description, which is fair. He's a younger guy, and so maybe he will have a different mindset when and if he has one, a kid. There's another one coming by. Try to shoot. And the same thing about working. I didn't have that much energy to work before, you know. When I was at university, I started my master's. I never finished it, and I had an okay. It was an okay salary. It's pretty small. Now, well, I mean, not generally, but it wasn't a lot of money. But I was comfortable, you know. I didn't have to work much. I went to work. I could watch like Twitch. I watched a lot of Dota 2 championships at the time, like the international and everything. And it was a very comfortable lifestyle. I didn't have to like bust my ass at work. Everything was fine. But eventually I had to push myself further because I got a girlfriend. I wanted to get married. I wanted, well, not necessarily I wanted, but I had to buy more things, you know, like, oh, we need a bigger house, or we need to buy this, we need to buy that. And then you're kind of, well, either I end the relationship, or I kind of do something with myself. And I chose the second. I chose the latter, which is, I mean, what most people do. So I started working more and having less time for myself, also making more money, which is good. And after the kids were born, then it was like that full blown, without anyone having to tell me otherwise, you know. It was like, well, I don't need anyone to push me right now, because I can push myself, you know. I need to try and give a good life for my kids best I can. And that is really all the motivation that I needed. Alright, so that was one thing that I wanted to say about that video. That is like, I don't know, I can empathize with the whole situation of, oh, rents are too high and everything, but at the same time, what can you do? Now, the other thing that I wanted to say, and it's the reason I'm recording the video right here, it's already 19 minutes. I tend to ramble a bit, as you guys know. Hope that's fine. Why am I here? I could record this video anywhere. I could have recorded it in my office, right? But there's a reason I'm here, which is like the change in perspective, you know, of what is necessary for one to be happy in life. There's another bird. I can't see it, but it won't show up in the camera. Yeah. So a very quick story about me. So I was born in São Paulo. Oh, I was born in Goiânia, But then I shortly thereafter moved to São Paulo, which is one of the biggest cities. I guess the biggest city here in Brazil. It's a very big metropolis. And ever since then, I always lived in apartments my whole life. From there to Ribeirão Preto and then back to Goiânia, I always lived in apartments. And to me, that was life, you know. Like, I had my bedroom, had some square meters to play with some Legos, and that's it. And it wasn't a bad life by any means, but you get used to, when you live in a city, you get used to some things like, oh, it's normal to not have a lot of space. It is normal to have a bunch of people all around you, like you have neighbors upwards and to your side and on the floor below, and you can't make a lot of noise. And maybe well, in my building you couldn't have pets, but maybe you can have pets, but it has to be a small dog, can't be a big dog. And if you get out of the home, then there's going to be traffic, and you have to be wary of crossing the street, and there's violence, there's criminality that you have to be wary of. You can't like just walk around willy-nilly, right? You may get jumped by someone. And if eventually, as you grow up and you get a job and everything, what do you have to look up or to look forward to? Well, you can buy an apartment yourself, right? And you're gonna have that kind of life. So that was my reality for many years. After I met my wife, we moved a couple times. Eventually we moved to a house, like an actual house, you know, like on the ground floor. And that was very strange to me at first because I was super worried. Well, what if someone jumps the walls and they just rob us? I was super worried. I even wanted to get some gun training at some point. I have since given up that idea. But all that paranoia was like coming from my experience of living in a bigger city and like having all those situations around me. Now when COVID happened, we moved, well, she moved here with both her kids. This is a very small town. There's a road up there after the silo here, and if you go down the road there, about 6 kilometers, there's the town that I live currently. And it's 30,000 people, give or take. Just a very small town. Like if you look up your neighborhood, there's probably more people than that, most likely, if you're watching this video. Not all of you, of course, but some. And she moved here with our kids because everything was in lockdown. It was really bad. It was a really bad time for everyone, right? And we really couldn't leave our home. And for small children, that is terrible because they're super energetic, right? They want to do a bunch of stuff. They want to jump around. They want to play, and you can't. And that sucks. So she moved here, and smaller towns are not so well policed, one might say. So they could bring the kids here to the farm, and they could play and everything. So it was very good for them. And I stayed back in Brasilia, which is where we lived. Brasilia is Brazil's capital, right? It's a very big city. And I waited there, I was working at the time. And I thought, well, it's going to be like a couple months of a lockdown max, right? And then they'll be back and we'll keep on life as usual. Well, as it turns out, it wasn't just a couple months, as we all know. It was a lot more than that. And after 6 months of lockdown, I was seeing my kids like once a month. And I was like, ah, man, that is too hard. We can't live like this. And so eventually I let the lease expire on our rental home back there. And I moved here. And then I started trying to find jobs, remote jobs, which fortunately was a very big thing at the time. So it kind of worked out well in the end. And after I moved to this small town, at first it was really bad. I didn't like it, you know, because all the things that I was used to, they didn't exist here. So if I wanted to go to McDonald's, well, there's no McDonald's. If I wanted to go to a 24-hour convenience store, there are no 24-hour convenience stores. If I wanted to get some specialized medication that is hard to find, probably couldn't find it. You would have to go to another town or perhaps order it and wait a couple days. Oh my god. there's kind of an eagle. It's not an eagle. Oh, you guys can see it's behind the tree. It's a very big bird flying, right? And like if you need medical attention, if you need to find a doctor, you're probably out of luck. So you're also gonna have to travel somewhere to find that kind of care. So if you really focus on the negatives, which I was as I moved here, it's really easy for you to get dragged down, to think, why did I move here? This place sucks. But it's been a couple years now, and the more I live here, the more I understand the appeal, And it's hard to say anything decisively in your life, but I'd say that the likelihood of me moving back to a big city at this point is decently low, because I know everything that I would miss. First thing, space. There's lots of space. See? Because, of course, very few people live in here, so the cost of land is really low compared to a big city. Peace and quiet as well. Like, there's very little violence in the city specifically, and I'd say most small towns. Because there's a lot of, like, social cohesion, right? Everyone knows everyone, and so, in general, people are more friendly. And the cost of living also does help a lot. It's a lot cheaper than a big city. And going back to the original topic, which is the Gen Z guy talking about how hard it is to have a job and make enough money and lead a comfortable life. After I moved here, man, I think that the solution is to just try and live with less. So, do you need a fancy car to be happy? Do you need to live in a high-rise apartment? Do you need to go out and eat on a fancy restaurant every week? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe you can live less, People were perfectly happy with like more simpler rural lifestyles for lots and lots of centuries before we came around. They seem to be doing all right. There's no reason why we need to push ourselves so much, I guess that I did a video on social media a couple months back, and it kind of goes back to that video really, because if you follow a lot of people on social media, it's very easy to get caught up on what they're buying, what they're doing, and then to get really sad and maybe depressed yourself of thinking, oh, my friends are traveling to Europe, oh, this friend of mine bought a new car, or this friend of mine bought a new apartment, and what am I doing here? And this is just talking about friends, right? If you follow famous people, then it's like even worse. Like, this guy has a $15 million mansion. I can't even pay rent. This sucks. Maybe you shouldn't follow people in social media, if you can. 1 second. Alright, hopefully that didn't show up in the video. It was an incoming call. Now, maybe if you don't focus so much on what other people have, then it will be easier to be happy. I don't know how every place is, of course, but I would imagine that if you move to a smaller place, you're not going to get as great of a salary, that's for sure. You're not going to be able to afford as many things, but at the same time you need less to live, Like, you can buy a place for cheaper because there's less demand. You can probably buy groceries for cheaper, but you're gonna have to cook yourself, which is actually healthier, so I guess that works out, right? Buy some vegetables, some meat, and just cook it. And even like talking about kids and everything, maybe it would be easier for you to have kids if you lower your standards a little bit. Like, oh, I won't be able to send my kids to Harvard or an Ivy League school, or in the case of Brazil, I'm not going to be able to like give this massive education to my kids so they can go to one of the best public universities in the country. Maybe that's okay, man. Maybe that's not too bad. I'm not too sure about that, to be honest with you. Like, this is the feeling that I have right now, but as the years go by, I change, as I've said before. And maybe what I'm saying right now is not what I'm going to be saying in a couple of years, but currently is how I feel, that it seems to me like it would be easier to try and live with less rather than try and either revolt against the system and say, oh, capitalism sucks and I won't work because I won't be able to retire at 60, so what's the point? Is that productive? Not really. Or on the flip side, just getting sad and depressed because you're actually trying to work and trying to bust your ass off, but you're living in a place like, let's say you're living in New York or LA that is so crowded and there's so much competition and the cost of living is so high and the cost of real estate especially is so high that you don't even have a glimmer of hope of buying anything for yourself. Like, why continue doing it? And it's easy for me to say, right? Like, you may say, oh, it's easy for you to say because I work in some line of industry, I work in some career that only specifically exists in big cities, and so I can just like up and move, I can just like tomorrow pack up, go to a small town and try and redo my life. I'm not saying that. I know it's hard. But at the same time, like, what good will it do complaining, Like, if you are at a job that you're not satisfied with, or that you're not making enough money that you think that you'll be able to afford a house and afford to have kids in a couple of years' time, why continue doing it? And try and do something different. Is it easy? No. It's probably very hard. And if you lived in a city your whole life, as I did, it's going to be hard for you to reset your mind, of all the things that you're used to in terms of having the conveniences around you that usually don't exist in smaller places. But at the same time, there's a lot of advantages that you didn't even know existed in the first place, which absolutely is the case for me. So it's been 32 minutes. That's a long time for a video, man. Especially without backing gameplay, so I'm sorry about that. But let me get up. Kind of wanted to show you guys around. So, like one final turn around here. There's this road here, as you can see. So it's made of dirt, of course, as you can see. It goes up from here and up to there, all the way around. And then if you come to the other side. Well, I actually stepped in in cow shit. No joke. There's a few cows in there that they raise for, they're selling and meat and everything. So you can come from there and then you go through here. There's my in-laws' horse. So very beautiful horse. So then what we're gonna do here is like, actually it's already ready. Just get a mountain bike and then ride around here and then just take some laps, for exercise. Beautiful setting. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And like, let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, if you think I'm an idiot, if you think that, I don't know, it's not feasible to do what I just said. And if you like the idea of the video as well, like if making outdoorsy videos like these rather than voiceover over gameplay, if you feel like this is better, that's no problem. Just let me know and we can do more of these. That's fine. Yeah, see you guys around. Bye bye.